The invitation to my father's 60th birthday party arrived by text message from my stepmother, of course. Not even the courtesy of a proper invitation. We're celebrating at the Palm Beach Club this Saturday. Black tie. Don't be late. No mention that I was the one who'd introduced them to the club. No acknowledgement that I was the reason they had access to one of the most exclusive venues on the coast. Just a cold command as if I were another name to check off her list. I'm Olivia Chin, though my stepmother, Victoria, never misses a chance to remind everyone that I carry my mother's surname instead of my father's. What Victoria doesn't know is that I also carry another name, one that would make her perfectly maintained smile crack if she knew it. Because while she thinks I'm just a moderately successful real estate agent, I'm actually Olivia Chin Matthews, owner of the Matthews Hotel Group, including the very club where she's planning my father's party. Not that anyone in the family knows this. To them, I'm just Robert Matthews' personal real estate agent, the one who got lucky and landed a wealthy client. They have no idea that Robert Matthews is my stepfather, my real stepfather, the one who actually acted like a parent when he married my mother 15 years ago. The one who taught me everything I know about the hotel business. Olivia. My assistant, Kate, appeared in my office doorway. Victoria Matthews just called again about the party arrangements. She wants to add 20 more guests to the list. I smiled, thinking about Victoria's love of throwing around the Matthews name at my club, never suspecting why the staff treated her with such careful deference. Approve it, I said. But make sure they set up in the West Ballroom, not the Ocean Room she requested. The smaller space? Kate raised an eyebrow. Trust me. My phone buzzed, another text from Victoria. Don't forget to wear something appropriate. This is a high-class event. I looked down at my Chanel suit, understated but worth more than Victoria's entire designer wardrobe. Another thing she didn't know about me. I could buy and sell her precious social circle 10 times over. The party was 3 days away when everything imploded. I was reviewing property acquisitions for our newest hotel when Kate burst into my office. You need to hear this, she said, putting my office phone on speaker. Victoria's voice filled the room. Absolutely cannot have her there. She's not real family, she's just his daughter from that first marriage. This party needs to be perfect. My father's voice, weak as always when facing his wife. But Victoria, she's still my daughter. A daughter who doesn't even use your name. No, this party is for real family only. I don't want her there embarrassing us in front of our friends. What should I tell her? Tell her. Victoria laughed. I'll tell her myself. She needs to learn her place. The line went dead. I sat there, fingers gripping the edge of my desk as years of similar slights and exclusions rushed through my memory. The family vacations I wasn't invited to. The holidays where I was seated at the kids' table despite being in my 30s. The constant reminders that I wasn't a real Matthews. If she only knew. My phone rang. Victoria's number. Hello. I kept my voice neutral. Olivia, dear. Her fake sweetness could rot teeth. About Saturday. I'm afraid there's been a change of plans. Oh. Yes, you see, we've had to cut down the guest list. Family only. I watched her reflection in my office window as she stood on my club's beachfront terrace, drinking my club's champagne, planning my father's party with my staff. Family only, I repeated. Yes, you understand. Real family. I thought about the membership contract sitting in my desk drawer, the one that gave her access to my club, my hotels, my properties, the one that could be revoked with a single signature. Of course, I said softly. Real family. Don't take it personally, dear. Maybe next time. Next time. Like the next family Christmas I wouldn't be invited to. The next holiday photo I'd see on social media. The next reminder that I wasn't good enough for the precious Matthews name. Except I was more Matthews than she'd ever be. Victoria, I said just before she could hang up. Enjoy the club. Oh, I always do. So exclusive, you know. Not just anyone can get in. I smiled, thinking about the meetings I had scheduled for tomorrow. Yes, I know exactly how exclusive it is. After hanging up, I buzzed Kate. Cancel Victoria's membership. All of them, the beach club, the country club, the spa access. Everything. All of it. Kate's eyes widened. But the party. Let her try to host my father's birthday party without a membership. I opened my laptop, pulling up the guest list. and send cancellation notices to her entire social circle. Apparently, the club is becoming more exclusive. This will cause chaos, Kate warned. The party is in 3 days. Good. I looked out my window at Victoria still lounging on my terrace. It's time she learned what family only really means. I spent the rest of the afternoon making calls. By sunset, Victoria's carefully planned party was about to implode spectacularly. My phone buzzed again, my father this time. For a moment I considered ignoring it. But no, he needed to learn this lesson too. Hi Dad. Olivia, honey, about the party. He sounded uncomfortable as usual when caught between his wife and his daughter. Don't worry, Dad. Victoria already uninvited me. Family only, right? You know how she is. It's easier just to go along. Is it? I stood up, watching the sun set over my properties, the hotels, clubs, and resorts that bore the Matthews name. Tell me, Dad, have you ever wondered why the staff at the club treats Victoria so well? Why she always gets the best tables, the premium services, the special treatment? Because we're members. No, Dad. Because of me. You. But you're just your daughter. Just the one who's not real family. I took a deep breath. Maybe it's time you and Victoria learned exactly who I am. I hung up before he could respond. Tomorrow would be interesting enough without hearing more of his excuses. Opening my safe, I pulled out the document I'd been saving for a moment like this. Proof of ownership of the Matthews Hotel Group, including a photo of me with my stepfather Robert at the signing ceremony 5 years ago. Victoria wanted to play games with family membership? Fine. Let's see how she handles having her own membership revoked. My phone was already filling with messages from her friends, all those exclusive members suddenly finding their access denied. Tomorrow Victoria would wake up to discover that her social kingdom was built on my property. And uninviting me from my father's birthday party? That would turn out to be the biggest mistake of her social climbing life. The morning of my father's birthday party dawned bright and clear. I sat in my private office at the Palm Beach Club, watching the drama unfold through the security feeds. Victoria arrived early, designer dress bag in hand, ready to oversee the final preparations for her perfect party. The moment she tried to scan her membership card, everything began to unravel. I'm sorry, Mrs. Matthews, the front desk manager said. It seems there's an issue with your membership. Excuse me. Victoria's voice carried clearly through the speaker. There must be some mistake. I'm Victoria Matthews. Yes, ma'am. And according to our records, your membership was terminated yesterday. I watched Victoria's perfectly made-up face contort with confusion. That's impossible. Check again. I have checked, ma'am. The termination came directly from ownership. All of your club privileges have been revoked. Do you know who I am? Victoria's voice rose sharply. My husband and I are hosting a party here tonight. A very important party. About that. The manager consulted his tablet. I'm afraid the event has been cancelled. Cancelled? Victoria screeched. It cannot be cancelled. I have 60 guests coming. Important people. My phone buzzed, texts flooding in from Victoria's social circle. My membership card isn't working. What's going on at the club? Did you hear? All our memberships are revoked. I smiled, thinking about all those careful social connections Victoria had built, all centered around access to my club. Access that no longer existed. Call Robert Matthews. Victoria was demanding. He's friends with the owner. Actually, a new voice cut in. I am the owner. Victoria spun around to face me, her eyes widening as I stepped out of the elevator. Olivia, what are you doing here? Checking on my property, I said calmly. Is there a problem? Your property? She laughed nervously. Don't be ridiculous. This club belongs to Matthews Hotel Group. Yes, I agreed. It does. I held up my ID badge, the one that identified me as CEO. And so do I. The color drained from her face. That's not possible. No. I smiled. Shall we discuss what's possible? Like how you've been using my clubs, my hotels, my properties to build your social status. Or how you just uninvited me from my father's birthday party at my own venue. You're lying. Robert Matthews owns this place. Robert Matthews was my stepfather, I said quietly. My real stepfather. The one who actually treated me like family when he married my mother. The one who taught me the business, who made me his heir, who gave me his name, professionally at least. Victoria staggered back, grabbing the reception desk for support. But you're just a real estate agent. A cover. Something to explain why I was always around properties and hotels. Did you never wonder why you got such special treatment here? Why the staff always seemed to know your preferences? Because I made sure they did. Because despite everything, you were married to my father. The party, she whispered, is cancelled, I confirmed. Along with your membership. And the memberships of everyone in your social circle. Apparently the club is becoming more exclusive. Family only. You can't do this, she shrieked. It's your father's birthday. Yes, it is. I turned to the manager. Please escort Mrs. Matthews out. She's no longer welcome on the property. Wait. Victoria grabbed my arm. Please. Everyone's coming. I'll be humiliated. Like I was humiliated every time you excluded me? Every time you reminded me I wasn't real family? I'll invite you to the party, she said desperately. You can come. I laughed softly. The party isn't happening, Victoria. Not here, not anywhere else in the Matthews Hotel Group properties. And since you've bragged to everyone about hosting it here. Her face crumpled as she realized the full implications. All her carefully cultivated social connections, her status as a Matthews, her reputation as someone who could access the most exclusive venues, all of it was crumbling. Your father will never forgive you, she threatened. Right on cue, the front doors opened. My father walked in, his face ashen. Is it true? He asked, looking between us. Olivia, are you really? The owner? Yes. I met his eyes steadily. Surprise, Dad. Turns out I made something of myself even without being real family. Why didn't you tell me? Would it have made a difference? Would you have stood up to her? I gestured at Victoria. Would you have insisted on including me in family events? Or would you have done what you always do, stay quiet while she pushed me away? He had no answer. He never did. Security will show you both out, I said, turning away. Oh, and Victoria. The country club membership, the spa access, the premium services at all Matthews properties? Those are gone too. Permanently. But where will I go? She whispered. Everyone who matters belongs to these clubs. Exactly, I smiled. Everyone who matters. Consider this a lesson in what family only really means. I watched them leave, Victoria in tears, my father finally showing some backbone by not comforting her. As they reached the door, I called out one last time. Victoria. She turned, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Happy birthday, Dad. The doors closed behind them. Within hours, social media was buzzing with the scandal. Victoria Matthews, social queen, exposed as nothing more than a guest in her stepdaughter's empire. All those carefully planned connections, all those social climbing efforts, destroyed in a single morning. My phone buzzed again, messages from my real family. My mother and Robert checking if I was okay. The people who had actually acted like family, who had supported me, guided me, helped me build something remarkable. I typed a quick response, then turned back to running my empire. The one Victoria had unknowingly flaunted her borrowed status in. The one my father had never bothered to notice his daughter building. The next day, a small package arrived at their house. A framed photo of me with Robert at the signing ceremony where I became CEO, along with a note. Family isn't about who uses the right name or attends the right parties. It's about who shows up, who supports you, who believes in you. Maybe now you'll understand what real family means. Don't bother trying other clubs in town. I own those too. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just showing people who you've become. It's showing them exactly what they've lost by underestimating you. And Victoria? She learned the hard way that social status is only as secure as the person providing it. Especially when that person is the stepdaughter you never thought was good enough to be real family.
The invitation arrived on a Tuesday, heavy cream-colored paper with gold embossing announcing the Morrison family's annual reunion. I stared at it, running my fingers over the raised letters while memories of past humiliations played through my mind like a worn-out film reel. My name is Olivia Morrison, but these days I go by Liv Carter in the business world. 10 years ago, I was the family's greatest disappointment. The girl who walked away from our family's banking empire to pursue foolish dreams of working in hospitality. The phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. My cousin Diana's name flashed on the screen. I already knew why she was calling. Olivia. Her voice dripped with artificial sweetness. I assume you received the invitation. I did. Well, darling, I'm calling to let you know that perhaps it's best if you skip this year's reunion. The Starlight Grand is quite exclusive. The required attire alone. I glanced out my office window at the Manhattan skyline, suppressing a smile. The Starlight Grand, my flagship hotel, though the Morrison family didn't know that. They had no idea that LC Hotels, the fastest-growing luxury hotel chain in the country, belonged to their poor relation. Are you saying I can't afford it, Diana? Oh, don't be dramatic. It's just that, well, we have some very important guests coming. The governor, several CEOs. We can't have anyone feeling uncomfortable. By anyone, she meant herself. Heaven forbid her successful friends discover her cousin worked in customer service. What would they think? I see I kept my voice neutral. And who chose the venue? I did, of course. Pride filled her voice. Daddy says I have excellent taste. The Starlight Grand is the most prestigious hotel in Manhattan. I had to pull some serious strings to book it for our reunion. I bit back a laugh. Diana hadn't pulled any strings. Her request had come through our regular booking channels, and I personally approved it last week. In fact, I'd given them a special rate, about 30% higher than our standard fee. That must have been difficult, I said mildly. Well, not everyone has my connections. The owner, L.C. Carter, is notoriously private, but her staff was quite accommodating once they heard the Morrison name. Of course they were. I'd instructed them to be. How interesting. Anyway, Diana continued, I'm sure you understand. Perhaps next year, if your situation improves. Are you still working at that little hotel in Brooklyn? The little hotel she referred to was actually my test property, where I developed and refined the service innovations that had made LC Hotels famous in the hospitality industry. But the Morrisons had stopped paying attention to my career years ago. Something like that, I replied. After hanging up, I sat back in my leather chair, memories washing over me. 10 years ago, I'd been fresh out of Cornell's hotel administration program, eager to learn the business from the ground up. My family had been horrified. A hotel clerk. My father had roared. No daughter of mine will wear a name tag and carry luggage. But I'd stuck to my plan, working every position from housekeeper to front desk manager. I learned every aspect of the business, identifying problems and innovating solutions. Within 3 years, I'd opened my first property under the LC Hotels banner. Now, at 32, I own 17 luxury hotels across 3 continents. The Starlight Grand, my Manhattan flagship, had revolutionized the industry with its blend of classic luxury and cutting-edge technology. The same family that had once mocked my career choice now considered it the height of prestige to hold their reunion there. My phone buzzed, a text from my assistant, Marcus. The Morrison family reunion contract needs your final signature. Shall I bring it up? I smiled, typing back, no need. I have plans for this one. Opening my laptop, I began making arrangements. If my family wanted to ban me from the reunion for being too poor, they were in for quite a surprise. The Starlight Grand was about to host a revelation none of them would ever forget. Memories flooded back as I worked. Every snide comment, every dismissive glance, every family gathering where I was seated at the far end of the table, away from the successful relatives. Diana's wedding 3 years ago had been the worst. She'd seated me with the catering staff, telling everyone it was so I feel more comfortable with my own kind. The fact that I'd already owned 12 hotels by then didn't matter. They'd never bothered to look beyond their own assumptions. My sister Madeline had been the only one to stay in touch, though even she didn't know the full extent of my success. She called just as I was finalizing the arrangements. Liv, Diana called me. She said she had to uninvite you from the reunion. I'm so sorry. Don't be, I replied, signing the last document with a flourish. Actually, I have a favor to ask. Could you make sure everyone arrives exactly at 7 p.m.? It's important. Why? What are you planning? Let's just say Diana isn't the only one with connections at the Starlight Grand. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of preparation. I personally supervised every detail, from the menu to the floral arrangements. The Morrison family wanted luxury. I would give them a show they'd never forget. The night before the reunion, I stood in the hotel's grand lobby, watching the staff polish every surface to a mirror shine. The crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, and the marble floors gleamed like sheets of ice. Everything was perfect. Marcus appeared at my side, tablet in hand. All arrangements are in place. The new signage will be unveiled at exactly 7:15 p.m. tomorrow. Are you sure about this? I nodded, thinking of Diana's condescending phone call, of years of subtle and not so subtle humiliation. Absolutely sure. After all, it's not every day I get to welcome my family to my hotel. I smiled, imagining their faces when they realized the truth. Tomorrow would change everything, and I was ready. At precisely 6:45 p.m. on the evening of the reunion, I stood in my private office on the top floor of the Starlight Grand, watching the Morrison family arrive through the security feeds. They came in waves of designer clothes and expensive jewelry, each trying to outshine the other. Diana swept in wearing Valentino, directing staff like she owned the place. My father's Bentley pulled up to the Valley station, followed by a stream of luxury cars carrying aunts, uncles, and cousins I hadn't seen in years. Everything's ready, Marcus said, adjusting his tablet. The staff knows their cues. Should I have security on standby? I shook my head. No need. The Morrisons care too much about appearances to make a scene in public. I smoothed down my custom-made suit, Armani, though they wouldn't expect me to know the difference. Let's give them time to settle in. Through the cameras, I watched my family members gather in the grand ballroom. Diana held court near the champagne fountain, loudly explaining how she pulled strings to secure the venue. My father stood with his business associates, probably discussing the latest banking merger. Even my distant cousins were there, all carefully positioned to show off their perceived status. At 7:10 p.m., right on schedule, the hotel manager approached Diana with the first hint that something was amiss. Ms. Morrison, I'm afraid there's been a slight issue with the reservation. Diana's face darkened. What kind of issue? I personally arranged everything with your corporate office. Yes, ma'am. It's just that the owner has some specific requests regarding tonight's event. The owner? Diana laughed dismissively. I seriously doubt Elsie Carter concerns herself with individual events. Now, if you'll excuse me. Actually, I said, stepping into the ballroom. Elsie Carter concerns herself with quite a lot of things. The silence that fell over the room was absolute. Every head turned toward me, the uninvited relative, the family embarrassment, standing in the doorway of Manhattan's most prestigious hotel wearing a suit that cost more than Diana's car. Olivia, my father's voice carried across the room. What are you doing here? Diana said. Diana said I couldn't afford to attend. I finished for him, walking slowly into the center of the room. She was concerned I might embarrass the family. Diana stepped forward, her face flushed with anger. This is a private event. I'll have security remove you. No, I cut her off, you won't. On cue, Marcus pressed a button on his tablet. The massive screen behind the stage lit up with the hotel's logo, and beneath it, my full name. Olivia Morrison Carter, founder and CEO, LC Hotels International. The gasps were audible. Diana's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. That's not possible, she stammered. Would you like to see my business cards? I asked sweetly. Or perhaps the deed to the building. I have those right here. I patted the leather portfolio under my arm. My father pushed through the crowd, his face a mix of shock and something else. Was it pride? You own the Starlight Grand? And 16 other properties across 3 continents, I confirmed. Though this one is special. It's where I started my career, as a junior housekeeper, while all of you were laughing at my foolish career choice. The memory surfaced again. Diana mocking my name tag, my aunts whispering about wasted potential, my cousins excluding me from family photos because I didn't fit the image. All those years, I continued, my voice carrying in the stunned silence. While you were so busy looking down on me, you never bothered to look up, to see what I was building. The little hotel in Brooklyn Diana loves to joke about? It's my innovation lab, where we develop the systems that have revolutionized the luxury hotel industry. Marcus stepped forward, distributing folders to key family members. Inside you'll find the true story of LC Hotels, along with documentation of your rather interesting booking for tonight's event. Diana snatched her folder, her hands shaking as she opened it. Her eyes widened at the numbers. This can't. The rate you charge us is about 30% above our standard fee, I confirmed. Consider it a family discount, in reverse. My sister Madeline burst out laughing from somewhere in the crowd. Others joined in nervously, unsure whether they were allowed to find humor in the situation. Why didn't you tell us? My father demanded. Would you have believed me? I asked simply. 10 years ago, you told me no daughter of yours would ever work in a hotel. Well, you were right about one thing. I don't work in a hotel. I own them. The screens around the ballroom came to life, showing images of my properties around the world. The sunset view from our Maldives resort, the snow-capped peaks surrounding our Swiss chateau, the glittering skyline visible from every room of our Dubai tower. As for tonight's reunion, I continued, your reservation hasn't been canceled. You're welcome to stay. In fact, I've arranged a special tour of the property. I think it's time you saw what a career in customer service really looks like. Diana stepped forward, her composure cracking. Olivia, we never met. Yes, you did. I cut her off gently. You meant every snide comment, every exclusion, every moment of mockery. But that's okay, because while you were also busy maintaining appearances, I was building something real. I turned to the assembled crowd, raising my voice slightly. Welcome to the Starlight Grand. My staff will show you to your upgraded suites, though I'm afraid Diana's room had to be downgraded due to a last-minute VIP booking. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Diana's face flushed deep red as she realized she'd be staying in the same category of room she'd once mocked me for cleaning. As the family dispersed, guided by my impeccably trained staff, my father lingered behind. I was wrong, he said quietly, about everything. I studied him for a moment, seeing for the first time uncertainty in his eyes. Yes, you were. But would you like to know the best part about owning 17 hotels, Dad? He raised an eyebrow questioningly. I have 17 different presidential suites where you can stay while you figure out how to make things right. A small smile cracked his serious expression. Where did you learn to negotiate like that? Probably the same place I learned about hospitality, by starting at the bottom and working my way up. Something this family never understood. Later that night, after the tours were complete and the family had settled into their rooms, Diana's notably smaller than the others, I stood in my private penthouse looking out over the city. Marcus brought in the final numbers for the evening. Your family seems subdued, he observed. I laughed. Amazing what a little perspective can do. Did you see Diana's face when she realized her room doesn't have a city view? Are you going to tell them about the expansion? The new properties in Paris and Tokyo? I smiled, thinking of the contracts sitting on my desk. The Starlight Grand was just the beginning. Let's save something for next year's reunion. After all, every good hotelier knows the importance of repeat business. As the city lights twinkled below, I thought about the long journey from that first day as a housekeeper to this moment. Success wasn't about proving them wrong, it was about proving myself right. And sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with a complimentary upgrade and a spectacular view. My phone buzzed with a text from Diana. Can we talk tomorrow? Please? I typed back a simple response. Of course. I believe your breakfast reservation is at 9 a.m. I own that restaurant too. Sometimes the greatest luxury isn't in the thread count of the sheets or the height of the ceiling. It's in the simple pleasure of finally being seen for who you really are. And as I looked out over my hotel empire, I knew that tomorrow would bring a new chapter in the Morrison family story. After all, every great hotel knows that the key to success isn't just in providing a room, it's in creating an experience they'll never forget. I can still hear the clinking of glasses and forced laughter from that Thanksgiving dinner. The crystal chandelier in my parents' dining room cast shadows across faces that hadn't bothered to visit my cafe in over 3 years, despite it being just 4 blocks away from the family's law firm. Emma, my sister Sophia's voice cut through the polite dinner conversation. Tell everyone your big news. I looked up from my plate, already knowing what was coming. Sophie sat there in her designer suit, diamond engagement ring catching the light as she reached for her wine glass. She had that look, the one that said she was about to remind everyone why she was the family's crown jewel. I made senior partner, she announced, her smile dazzling. Youngest in the firm's history. The table erupted in excitement. Mom practically glowed with pride. Dad raised his glass in a toast. To Sophia Harrison, carrying on the Harrison and Associates legacy. I took a small sip of my wine, thinking about the stack of contracts waiting on my desk at home. But of course, nobody here knew about those. To them, I was just the family disappointment who played cafe owner instead of joining the prestigious family law firm. And what about you, Emma? Aunt Patricia turned to me with that familiar mix of pity and condescension. Still running that little coffee shop, the Wild Vine Cafe, I corrected her quietly. Yes, I am. Still serving coffee. Sophia laughed, sharing a knowing look with our cousin Diana. You know there's always a place for you at the firm if you want a real career. I stirred my mashed potatoes, remembering the meeting I'd had that morning with one of the city's biggest real estate developers. The contract I'd signed was worth more than Sophia's entire year's salary. But they didn't need to know that. Not yet. The cafe does well enough, I said mildly. Well enough to pay rent, I hope. Mom chimed in, concern etched on her face. That downtown location must be expensive. I almost smiled. If they only knew I owned the entire building, and the one next to it, and most of that block. I manage, I replied. Sophia launched into a story about her latest big case, some corporate merger worth millions. Our parents hung on every word, just like they had since we were kids. Sophia, the straightest student who followed the perfect path. Elite law school, prestigious clerkship, then straight into the family firm. And me? I was the rebel who chose culinary school over law school, who used my trust fund to buy a rundown cafe instead of a luxury condo. I just wrapped up the Anderson acquisition, Sophia was saying. You should have seen their legal team scrambling when I found the loophole in their contract. Mr. Chen was so impressed, he's bringing all of his business to our firm now. I kept my face carefully neutral at the mention of James Chen. If Sophia only knew who really controlled most of his real estate holdings. I just don't understand, Mom said later, cornering me in the kitchen as I helped with dishes. You're smart, Emma. You could have had everything Sophia has. Why waste your life serving coffee? I dried a crystal wine glass, thinking about my morning schedule for tomorrow. Not everyone wants to be a lawyer, Mom. But you're capable of so much more. She lowered her voice. Look at your sister, designer clothes, luxury car, that gorgeous penthouse apartment. Don't you want that kind of success? I thought about my own penthouse, the one I bought last month under one of my holding companies, the one with a better view than Sophia's. I'm happy with my choices, I said simply. Mom shook her head. I just worry about your future. The cafe business is so unstable. What happens when you want to start a family? How will you provide? I bit back a laugh, thinking about my diverse investment portfolio and the string of properties I'd quietly acquired over the past 5 years. The cafe had just been the beginning, my front door into the world of downtown real estate. Later that night, as everyone gathered their coats to leave, Sophia cornered me by the door. Hey, I meant what I said about the firm, she said, her voice carrying that elder sister authority she perfected since childhood. Dad would create a position for you in a heartbeat. You could start in corporate law, maybe work your way up. Thanks, I cut her off, but I'm good where I am. She frowned, perfectly plucked eyebrows drawing together. Emma, be serious. You can't serve lads forever. Don't you want to make something of yourself? Oh, which she only knew. I made something of myself all right, something much bigger than anyone in this family suspected. Tomorrow morning would prove that. I should go, I said, checking my watch. Early morning at the cafe. Right, Sophia smirked. Those coffee beans won't grind themselves. I drove home to my real office, hidden in plain sight above the cafe. While my family thought I spent my days steaming milk and making change, I built an empire of my own. The cafe was just the public face, the piece of me they could see and mock. Behind it lay a web of real estate holdings, strategic investments, and carefully crafted contracts that would soon reshape downtown. Unlocking my office, I settled behind my desk and opened the file marked Chen Acquisitions. Tomorrow morning, James Chen would walk into my cafe, not as Sophia's client, but as my business partner. He'd been helping me buy up properties through various shell companies for years, keeping my identity hidden even from his own lawyers, including my sister. I pulled out the final contract, the one that would consolidate all my downtown holdings under a single management company. The one that would finally reveal who really controlled half of the city's most valuable real estate. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophia. Dinner was fun. Though Mr. Chen mentioned he might stop by your cafe tomorrow. Try not to embarrass me. He's our biggest client. I smiled, setting my phone aside without replying. Tomorrow would certainly be interesting. The contract was straightforward. My various holding companies would merge into a single entity, Harrison Capital Group. The name was a bit of family irony I couldn't resist. As I reviewed the paperwork one last time, I thought about my sister's smug smile at dinner, my mother's concerned lectures, my father's dismissive attitude toward my little coffee shop. They had no idea that while they were focused on law firm politics and courtroom drama, I'd been quietly building something far bigger. 5 years of careful planning, strategic acquisitions, and hidden ownership were about to pay off. Tomorrow, James Chen would sign the final papers, and my family would learn that the daughter they'd written off as a simple barista actually owned more of downtown than their precious law firm could ever dream of handling. The morning after Thanksgiving, I arrived at the Wild Vine Cafe earlier than usual. My manager, Kate, was already there, setting up for what she thought would be a normal day. The special meeting room is ready, she said, handing me a coffee. Though I still don't understand why Mr. Chen wants to meet in a cafe instead of his office. I smiled, taking a sip. Sometimes the best deals happen in unexpected places. At precisely 9 a.m., James Chen walked through the door. Despite being one of the city's most powerful real estate developers, he dressed simply in a black sweater and slacks. That was one thing I'd always appreciated about him. No pretense, just business. "Good morning, Ms. Harrison," he said warmly. Then, loudly enough for others to hear, "Could I get a vanilla latte?" I played along, heading behind the counter to make his drink personally. We perfected this routine over the years, me the humble cafe owner, him the casual customer. Nobody ever suspected we were orchestrating million-dollar deals over coffee. As I steamed the milk, the cafe's door chimed again. I looked up to see Sophia striding in, legal briefcase in hand. "Mr. Chen," she called out, clearly surprised to actually find him here. "I didn't expect to see you so early." James accepted his latte from me with a nod. "Ah, Miss Harrison, your sister makes the best vanilla latte in the city. Would you care to join our meeting?" Sophia blinked, glancing between us. "Meeting?" "Yes, regarding the downtown development project." He gestured to the private room at the back of the cafe. "Shall we?" I could see Sophia's mind racing, probably wondering why her biggest client was having a meeting in her sister's little coffee shop. Still, she followed us into the room, her heels clicking against the hardwood floors. The room looked deceptively simple: comfortable chairs, a solid wooden table, warm lighting. Only the small camera in the corner, ready to record the signing, hinted at something more significant. "I'll need another witness," James said, pulling out a thick contract. "Perhaps your sister could join us." Sophia's perfect composure slipped slightly. "Emma?" "Oh no, she runs the cafe. She doesn't need to be involved in legal matters." James raised an eyebrow. "On the contrary, she's quite essential to this meeting." I sat down at the head of the table, enjoying the growing confusion on my sister's face. "Actually, Sophia, you're the one who doesn't need to be here. But since you are, you might as well witness something interesting." The door opened again, and my father walked in, followed by two other partners from Harrison and Associates. They must have been meeting nearby and seen Sophia enter. "What's going on here?" Dad demanded. "Sophia, why are you meeting with Mr. Chen in a cafe?" Before she could answer, James spoke up. "Actually, I invited everyone here. It seemed fitting to sign these papers where it all began." "Where what began?" Sophia asked. I opened my laptop, pulling up the presentation I prepared. The consolidation of Harrison Capital Group's downtown holdings, currently valued at just over $300 million. The room went silent. Dad's face paled as he looked at the screen, which showed a map of downtown with highlighted properties, blocks and blocks of prime real estate. "Harrison Capital Group," he whispered. "My company," I said calmly. "Though you might know some of its subsidiaries: Wild Vine Properties, Azure Development, Crown Point Investments." Sophia practically fell into her chair. Those are all the properties we've been handling contracts for. The ones owned by Mr. Chen's investment groups." "Not exactly," James corrected her. Those properties belong to your sister. I've merely been helping her acquire them quietly over the years. That's impossible, Dad sputtered. Emma runs a cafe. She couldn't possibly. I pulled out my own copy of the contract. The cafe was just the beginning. When I bought this building 6 years ago, I saw an opportunity. Downtown was undervalued, fragmented. Nobody realized how much potential was being wasted. While you were all busy mocking my little coffee shop, I continued. I was meeting investors, analyzing property values, and slowly piecing together the largest private real estate portfolio in the city. Sophie grabbed the contract, her legal training kicking in as she scanned the documents. Her face went from skeptical to shocked to something close to awe. This is worth hundreds of millions, she whispered. You own half of downtown. More than half, actually, James added. Your sister has quite a talent for seeing value where others don't. Rather like buying a rundown cafe and turning it into the cornerstone of an empire. Dad sank into a chair, his face ashen. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked quietly. You were also convinced I was wasting my potential. It was easier to let you think that while I built something on my own terms. But you serve coffee, Sophia stammered. You wear an apron. You? I wear many things, I cut her off. Sometimes an apron, sometimes a business suit. The difference is, I never needed everyone to see the suit to know my own worth. James pulled out his pen. Shall we make it official? I signed first, my signature bold and clear. James followed, then dated his signature with a flourish. Just like that, Harrison Capital Group became the largest consolidated private real estate holder in the city. Congratulations, James said, shaking my hand. Though I must say, I'll miss our early morning investment meetings disguised as coffee runs. The cafe's still here, I smiled. Though I might need to expand given how many lawyers might suddenly develop a taste for our lats. Later that evening, after the shock had worn off and the family had retreated to process this new reality, I sat in my office above the cafe. The city lights twinkled beyond my window, my city in many ways. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Can we talk? Over coffee, maybe? I looked down at my cafe, still bustling with evening customers. The place where everyone thought I was just scraping by, when in reality, I was building an empire one cup at a time. Sure, I texted back. I know a great little place downtown. I hear the owner's doing pretty well for herself. Sometimes success doesn't look like what others expect. Sometimes it wears an apron and serves coffee while quietly buying up the building next door. And sometimes the best revenge isn't proving others wrong. It's proving yourself right. I closed my laptop and headed downstairs. Tomorrow the newspapers would announce Harrison Capital Group's consolidation, and everyone would know the truth. But tonight, I had a cafe to run. After all, that's where the best deals happen, over a perfectly made cup of coffee, served by someone who knows exactly what they're worth. The day my husband died started like any other. Alex kissed me goodbye, his laptop bag slung over his shoulder as he headed out for a business trip to Singapore. I'll call when I land, he promised. Love you, Sophie. Those were the last words I heard from him. Or so I thought. I'm Sophie Chin, and at 32, I became a widow. At least that's what everyone believed, including me. The call came at 3 a.m. Mark, Alex's best friend and business partner, could barely get the words out through his sobs. The private plane they'd chartered had gone down somewhere over the Pacific. No survivors found. I remember sliding down the wall, my legs unable to hold me up as the world spun around me. Alex and I had been married for 7 years. We'd been trying for a baby. We had plans, dreams, a future that vanished in an instant. The shock didn't truly wear off until I tried to access our bank accounts the next day. I'm sorry, Mrs. Chen, the bank manager said, his face carefully blank. These accounts were emptied yesterday morning. All transfers were authorized with the correct passwords and authentication. I stared at him, uncomprehending. That's impossible. My husband, he died yesterday. The manager shifted uncomfortably. According to our records, Mr. Chen personally authorized these transfers at 9:43 a.m. yesterday, before his scheduled flight. The numbers on the screen swam before my eyes. Our savings, our investments, our retirement accounts, all gone. Over $3 million vanished just hours before the plane went down. I walked out of the bank in a daze, my mind refusing to connect the dots that were becoming clearer with each passing minute. Alex had always handled our finances. He was the successful investment banker, while I taught kindergarten. I trusted him completely. That trust started to crumble as more details emerged. The private plane company had no record of Alex or Mark booking a flight. Our house deed had been quietly transferred to a shell corporation 2 months earlier. Even our safety deposit box had been emptied. There has to be some mistake, I told the detective assigned to the case. Alex wouldn't. He couldn't, but he could and he did. As the investigation unfolded, the truth emerged in painful fragments. The plane crash was fiction. Mark wasn't even in the country when he made that tearful call. Phone records showed he was in the Cayman Islands, where millions in cryptocurrency had been moved through untraceable accounts. My husband hadn't died. He orchestrated an elaborate disappearance, taking everything we built together. The worst part was the evidence of planning. Security footage showed Alex making multiple visits to a storage facility in the weeks before his death. Credit card statements revealed small purchases of camping gear, survival supplies, and burner phones. He'd been preparing for months while sleeping beside me every night. Our friends were stunned. "He seems so devoted to you," they said. "You two were perfect together." Were we? Looking back, I started to see the cracks I'd ignored. The late-night phone calls he'd take outside, the business trips that grew more frequent, the way he changed passwords and insisted on handling all our finances. I'd been a fool, blinded by love and trust. The house went into foreclosure. I moved into a tiny apartment, taking only what I could prove I bought with my teaching salary. The life insurance company denied my claim, citing evidence of fraud. Mark disappeared, his phones disconnected, his social media erased. Depression hit hard. I took leave from work, barely able to get out of bed. My sister Grace moved in temporarily, forcing me to eat, to shower, to keep living when all I wanted was to disappear like Alex had. "He's not worth this," she'd say, holding me through the nightmares. "You're stronger than what he did to you." But I didn't feel strong. I felt hollow, scraped empty of everything I thought I knew about love and trust. The students in my kindergarten class noticed the change in their usually cheerful teacher. Their innocent questions, "Why are you sad, Ms. Chen?" would bring me to tears. Months passed in a fog of grief and anger. I went through the motions of living, teaching my class, paying my bills, trying to rebuild some semblance of normalcy. But every night, I'd lie awake wondering where Alex was, what he was doing with our money, whether any part of our marriage had been real. The police investigation stalled. Without a body, they couldn't prove death or fraud. International financial regulations made tracing the money nearly impossible. Alex had planned his escape meticulously, leaving no loose ends. Grace convinced me to start seeing a therapist, Dr. Martinez, who specialized in trauma and betrayal. In her quiet office, I began to unravel the threads of my marriage, seeing patterns I'd missed. "He love-bombed you," she explained. "The whirlwind romance, the lavish gifts, the constant attention. It was all designed to create deep trust quickly. People like Alex are master manipulators. They study their targets, learning exactly how to make them feel special." I remembered our courtship, how he'd seemed too good to be true, sweeping me off my feet with grand gestures and declarations of love. How quickly he wanted to merge our lives, our finances, our futures. "But 7 years," I whispered. "Who could pretend for 7 years?" "Sociopaths can," she said gently. "To them, relationships are transactions. They can mimic emotions perfectly while feeling nothing real underneath." The truth was like acid, burning away the last of my illusions. Alex hadn't loved me. I'd been a long con, a cover story, a way to build legitimate wealth he could steal. Our whole marriage had been a carefully constructed lie. 1 year after his death, I filed for divorce on grounds of abandonment. The paperwork felt final, like closing a book I never wanted to read again. I changed my name back to Sophie Lin, refusing to carry his name any longer. Grace helped me move to a new apartment, one I chose for myself. I started rebuilding, piece by piece. I took financial literacy classes, opened new accounts in my name only, and began to trust my own judgment again. But sometimes, late at night, I'd dream of Alex. In my dreams, he was always smiling that perfect smile, the one that had made me feel like the most special person in the world. I'd wake up hating myself for missing the man I thought he was. I had no way of knowing then that 8 years would pass before I saw that smile again. That when I did, it would be in an airport terminal thousands of miles from home. That the man wearing it would be standing with his new family, living a life he'd stolen from me. And I had no way of knowing that I would be ready for him. 8 years can dull even the sharpest pain. I had built a new life, one carefully constructed without any traces of Alex. I earned my master's degree in education, become a school principal, and even started dating again, though trust never came easily. The day everything changed, I was at LAX, waiting for a flight to a conference in Boston. My attention was caught by a child's laughter, bright and uninhibited in the way only young children can be. I looked up from my phone, and there he was. Alex stood about 30 feet away, holding hands with a boy who looked about 6. A woman in expensive yoga wear leaned against him, heavily pregnant, while a little girl clutched his other hand. They looked like a perfect family from a magazine cover. He hadn't changed much. A few gray hairs at his temples, laugh lines around his eyes, but still handsome in that polished way that had first attracted me. His suit probably cost more than I made in a month. Then he turned slightly, and our eyes met. I saw the moment recognition hit him. His face went pale, and he instinctively pulled his family closer, as if I were a threat. The woman, his new wife, noticed his tension and looked my way, confusion clear on her face. My hands didn't shake as I pulled up my phone. Years of therapy had prepared me for this moment, though I'd never truly believed it would come. I snapped several clear photos before he could react, then dialed a number I'd memorized long ago. Detective Rivera, remember that case from 8 years ago? I found him. Alex's expression shifted from shock to fear. He whispered something to his wife, who gathered the children and hurried toward their gate. But he stayed, watching me as I spoke to the detective who had never quite closed my case. When I hung up, he approached cautiously, like someone nearing a wild animal. "Sophie," he said softly, that familiar voice sending unwanted shivers down my spine. "Please, I have a family now." "You had a family before," I replied, my voice steady. "Or was I just a convenient mark?" He glanced nervously at the security cameras, the crowds flowing around us. "It wasn't like that. I was in trouble. I owe people money. Dangerous people. Disappearing was the only way out. And stealing every penny we had. Making me think you were dead. Was that the only way too?" "I can explain everything," he said, taking a step closer. "Maybe we could get coffee, talk somewhere private." "No," I cut him off firmly. "We're not going anywhere private. In fact, you might want to call your lawyer. The FBI is very interested in financial fraud cases involving fake deaths." His face hardened. "You don't want to do this, Sophie. Think about my kids." "I am thinking about them. I'm thinking about how they deserve to know who their father really is. Just like your wife deserves to know she married a con man." Security officers were approaching. I'd mentioned a possible fraud suspect when I called Rivera. Alex saw them too and straightened his designer jacket. "You're making a mistake," he said quietly. "I'm not the same person I was back then." I smiled, feeling calmer than I had in years. "That's where you're wrong, Alex. You're exactly the same person. You're still lying, still manipulating, still trying to protect yourself at everyone else's expense. The only difference is that this time, I can see right through you." The officers reached us. "Sir, we need you to come with us." Alex's mask slipped for just a moment, and I saw the cold calculation in his eyes that I'd been too blind to notice during our marriage. Then it was gone, replaced by a businessman's polite confusion. "There must be some mistake," he said smoothly. "I have a flight to catch." "No mistake, Mr. Chen. Or are you going by a different name these days?" His new wife was watching from their gate, concern evident on her face as she held their children close. My heart ached for them. Innocent victims who would soon have their world shattered, just as mine had been. As the officers led Alex away, I saw him reach for his phone, probably calling the high-powered lawyers that our stolen money had bought. But it didn't matter. I had what I needed: proof that he was alive, evidence of his new identity, and enough photos to ensure he couldn't disappear again. Detective Rivera arrived within the hour, along with 2 FBI agents. They took my statement in a private office, documenting everything about Alex's new life that I'd observed. "He's using the name Alexander Whitman now," one agent told me. "Looks like he's been running a successful investment firm in Vancouver. Married, 2 kids, third on the way. On paper, he's the perfect citizen." "He always was good at appearances," I said. As I watched them coordinate with Canadian authorities, I felt a strange mix of emotions. There was satisfaction, yes, but also sadness for his children, and something else, relief. Relief that I could finally stop wondering, stop looking over my shoulder, stop feeling like a fool for not seeing through him sooner. My phone buzzed with a text from Grace. Did they get him? Yes, I replied. It's finally over. But I had no idea then just how wrong I was. It wasn't over, it was just beginning. The arrest of Alexander Whitman, formerly known as Alex Chen, made international headlines. Dead husband found living double life. Multi-million-dollar fraud scheme exposed. The story was too sensational to ignore. His new wife, Rebecca, reached out to me through her lawyer. She wanted to meet, to understand. We arranged to talk at a neutral location, a hotel conference room with our attorneys present. She was beautiful, younger than me, and visibly pregnant. Her eyes were red from crying, but she held herself with dignity. Did you know? She asked immediately. Was any part of your marriage real? I shook my head. I'm still asking myself the same questions. I thought we were happy. I never saw it coming. She broke down then, her composed facade crumbling. 7 years, she sobbed. We've been married 7 years. Our children. What do I tell our children? The parallel wasn't lost on me. 7 years of marriage before he destroyed everything. I wondered if he planned to disappear on her too, eventually. The legal proceedings were complex, spanning multiple jurisdictions. The FBI uncovered a web of financial fraud stretching back decades. Alex hadn't just stolen from me. There were other victims, other schemes, other lives he'd ruined. His firm in Vancouver was built on stolen money and fake credentials. Clients' investments had been mismanaged, funds diverted to offshore accounts. The total amount stolen was staggering, over $50 million. Mark, his old friend who had helped fake his death, was found in Thailand and extradited. He broke down under questioning, revealing everything. The plan had been in motion for years before Alex died. They had set up shell companies, established false identities, created an entire shadow financial network. I testified at the trial, facing Alex across the courtroom. He looked smaller somehow, his expensive suits replaced by prison orange. The confident mask was gone, replaced by desperation as the evidence mounted. Please, he begged when given a chance to speak. I did it for my family. I needed to protect them. Which family? The prosecutor asked coldly. The one you abandoned or the one you lied to? The verdict was unanimous, guilty on all counts. The judge showed no mercy, citing the calculated nature of his crimes and the devastating impact on his victims. 25 years, she pronounced. No possibility of parole for 15. Rebecca divorced him immediately. We developed an unlikely friendship, supporting each other through the media circus and legal aftermath. Her children would need therapy just as I had. But they were young. They would recover, build new memories, understand eventually that their father's actions weren't their fault. The recovered money was divided among his victims. I received back most of what he'd stolen from me, plus interest and damages. But the real victory wasn't financial. I visited him once in prison, 6 months into his sentence, not for closure. I found that already. But to tell him something important. I forgive you, I said through the glass partition. Not for you, but for me. I'm done letting what you did define my life. He stared at me, that manipulative charm finally stripped away. How? He whispered. How can you forgive me? Because I'm stronger than what you did to me. I always was. You just helped me realize it. I stood up to leave, but paused. One more thing. Rebecca and I are starting a support group for victims of financial fraud. Your story is helping other people protect themselves. So in a way, you finally did something good. As I walked out of the prison, my phone buzzed. A text from my boyfriend James, a kind, honest man I'd met through my school's parent association. Proud of you, it read. Dinner tonight? I smiled, remembering how long it had taken me to trust again, to believe that love didn't have to be a weapon. James had been patient, understanding that my walls were built from hard experience. That evening over dinner, he proposed. The ring was simple, nothing like the flashy diamond Alex had used to win me. But James offered something far more valuable. Truth, partnership, and a love built on respect rather than deception. Yes, I said, tears of joy replacing all the tears of pain I shed over the years. Later that night, I stood on my balcony, looking at the city lights. I thought about the young woman I'd been devastated by betrayal, thinking her life was over. I wish I could tell her that the end of one story was just the beginning of a better one. My phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca. Support group meeting tomorrow. 5 new members. We're making a difference. I smiled, thinking about how life's darkest moments can lead to unexpected light. Alex had tried to destroy me, but instead he forced me to discover my own strength. His betrayal had led me to help others, to find real love, to become someone I was proud to be. The next morning, I walked into my school office, where pictures of my students lined the walls. Their trust and innocence reminded me daily why honesty matters, why integrity is worth protecting. A news alert popped up on my phone. Another financial fraud case exposed, another family devastated by lies. I added the victim's contact information to our support group list. Their healing journey was just beginning, but they wouldn't walk it alone. Because that's what survival teaches you, that your worst moments can become someone else's hope. That trust, once broken, can be rebuilt stronger. That love, real love, is worth the risk. Alex would serve his time, his children would grow up, and life would go on. But his greatest legacy wasn't the pain he caused. It was the strength he inadvertently gave to those he tried to break. Sometimes I still dream of that day in the airport, of seeing him with his new family. But now the dreams don't hurt. They remind me of how far I've come, of what I've built from the ashes of his deception. James and I married in a small ceremony, surrounded by real friends and honest love. Rebecca was my maid of honor, a twist of fate neither of us could have predicted. Her children call me Aunt Sophie, and they're growing up knowing that truth matters more than appearances. Life has a way of coming full circle. 8 years after my world shattered, I stood in front of our support group, sharing my story one last time before passing the leadership to Rebecca. Rock bottom, I told them, is where you discover what you're made of. And sometimes, the people who try to destroy you end up giving you your greatest strength.